Hey, weirdos. Welcome to what I guess I'll call a special edition of Whiskey and Weird. For those of you who actually ever pay attention to me, you know that I'm kind of on hiatus this summer, taking a break, getting ready to rebrand a little bit under my paranormal whole persona. And also in the middle of moving, about ready to move in 2 weeks from the Seattle area to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So it's a little crazy all over the place right now for me. But I'm excited for this. It's a pretty cool opportunity and really excited to introduce you to our guest here in a few minutes. And but first of all, the whiskey, right? So remember, you can always, if you're catching this for a minute and you want to watch later, the replay will be on Facebook, on YouTube. You can also listen on your favorite podcast app anytime after. I usually get that loaded pretty quickly. We're pretty easy going around here. So, but I'm really glad you're here. I hope you'll pop in and say hi. So I know that you're here. It's a lot of fun to know who's watching. Leave me a comment, say hello, and of course, as we get in the midst of the interview, please do ask your questions. I'll see if I can pop those up on the screen for Lance too. So, but first thing is first, right? Whiskey. Whiskey is always first. So I haven't really been doing a lot of whiskey lately, but of course I was inspired today. And funny thing, I had to go pick up my son's new glasses and pay for mine, and I my eyeglass place happens to be right next door to Total Wine and More. So, what a better opportunity to go in and purchase some new whiskey than that. So, hi, Tim, my cousin, Tim. Hi, Maddie, fellow tour guide in Seattle. Hi, Sandy from Vancouver, BC. Welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. Remember, chime in, questions, thoughts. It's really fun to have you all here. And let me know, are you whiskey drinkers or no? Totally cool if you're not, but I am. And those of you who know me a little bit know that that my preferred whiskey is a single malt Scotch. So I haven't been drinking a lot of single malt Scotch because I've been trying to venture out and try some other things lately. But I did pick up one today because I've kind of missed it a little bit. And so what I'm trying tonight is actually from Krieg Isle. I'm going to put this up here. It's a single malt Scotch whiskey from Islay, from the Islay region. So this is going to be a smoky, it's going to be peaty, right? And those of you who know me too know that it's not my favorite. I'm not huge into the peaty, but I'm adventurous and I'm always willing to try new things. Never say never, never say always. Those aren't real things. Those things don't exist. Sandy says she's at work, but she prefers vodka. Vodka's cool. It does the trick, right? So I'm going to try this. It is matured in American oak, but we'll see what this is all about. Let's give it a whirl. Oh, definitely smoky. Definitely. But there's a little something fruity to it too. So we'll see if that comes through at all. Something a little fruity with the smoky. That's an interesting combo, right? Yep. And actually in here, I'm getting more of the fruity notes. I'm kind of confident that this won't be overly peaty for me. I don't mind a little peat because you know what? I love the smell of a good campfire, right? But too much of the taste of the campfire, not so much really. So I see some more people popping on. Please say hi if you're here. Let me know if you have a beverage tonight, if you're drinking with me. But I am trying a Krieg Isle. It's a single malt Scotch, and those of you who know me again know that that's my fave. So let's give it a little taste on the palate here. Ooh, you know what? pretty pleasant. It's not overwhelming on the roof of the mouth, which is kind of nice, because I find when that happens, then I like am anticipating what it's going to be like on the finish. It's just a mild smokiness. Like, actually, I'm kind of enjoying this. And there's also this interesting kind of fruity. There's something fruity about this. Let me try another little sip. Yeah, I think I'm kind of going to enjoy this, you guys. Maybe I'm just really excited to be back to some single malt scotch. You guys, hi. Say hi if you're here, even if you're here just for a moment. It's good for my ego, right? I'm glad you're here. And if you're a whiskey drinker, this is pretty good. You guys, if you like the peaty stuff, Krieg Isle, it's an Isle of malt. And yeah, single malt scotch and pretty good stuff. So I'm gonna stay sipping on this, and of course I'll write up my tasting notes. But really, what I'm getting, I get just a really mild peatiness. It's actually really lovely, and a little bit of a fruit, maybe tropically. I don't know if it's that, but it's an interesting combination. But it's actually a really enjoyable experience. So. I'm glad. And, it worked out really well for me because it was it was like a special. And since I'm a little broke right now because I'm about to move and all of that, that's cool. That's totally cool with me. So hi, Jacqueline. Hi, Jonas. Hi, Tracy. You guys, thanks for being here. So I'm going to shift now. Whiskey is rolling. This is a good thing, right? And I'm going to shift now to invite in my guest here, Mr. Lance Zaal. Now, Lance, as many of you know, I am a ghost tour guide in Seattle, and I do those tours. I work for the company that actually Lance founded and runs. It's called U.S. Ghost Adventures. And funny thing, I had no idea that he ran it until a couple of weeks ago. So I'm kind of excited to have that information. But he's quite the entrepreneur. He has his hands in quite a few things. But let's go ahead and bring him on. I'm really excited for you guys to meet him.
Hi.
Hey, Lance. Hey, thank you so much for coming on with me tonight. I mean, it actually means a lot. This little itty bitty thing I do called Whiskey and Weird. So,
well, we like our tour guides, and I also like whiskey. I don't have any with me right now, but happy to support you and what you're doing. And it's good to kind of have an opportunity to chat with people about this too. So thanks for having me.
For sure. Thank you. It's kind of depressing that you don't have any whiskey. I'm going to be totally honest, but
should have sent me some.
I should have, but as I said, I'm kind of broke right now, about ready to move. But yeah. So just really quickly, I for the sake of my listeners, looking at your bio, wow, like you're a super busy guy. Some really impressive stuff, just looking kind of like where you started from. I think there's probably a great story to tell there, but of course our focus tonight is on Lizzie Borden. I do want to say I saw that you are a Marine. You did three deployments, 3 tours. And so thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I am an Air Force brat myself, so I have tremendous respect for our service members. So thank you for that. That's really great. And I was really excited to learn about that. So this is really why people are here and why I want to talk to you, because this is pretty fascinating. This is a story, of course, that probably anyone knows about, but especially people who are into ghost stories and unsolved murders and things. Is your purchase recently of the Lizzie Borden house. And I just kind of want to let you tell us, how did that come about? Was that something you had your eye on for a while, or was it something you saw and were like, hey, I need to have this opportunity?
Well, part of our bigger plan. It's part of our bigger plan nationally, and one of our employees shared that with me, and I thought, why not? Let's go for it. Let's try and get this. Fits in perfectly with where we're headed this decade, and so we went for it.
That's awesome. So I saw that you have one of your companies. So of course you have U.S. Ghost Adventures. King of Clubs Coffee and Brewing, and then more recently Junket, which kind of was formerly iTour Mobile, right? And so I had seen you said it's kind of in line with the direction we're headed. Could you speak a little more? What is that direction? What does that look like for you?
Oh, for Junket or some of the other ones, or the Lizzie Borden
just in
house?
general, like I saw Junket was a lot about what was it about some of these locations. So it seemed like some of your stuff kind of goes hand in hand, right? So maybe they're two completely separate things, but you certainly are a man with a vision, and I always love to hear about those things that I think people are curious.
So I actually started out as a tour guide in grad school. I started a food tour actually, and I was looking for a way to graduate earlier. I was working full time and going to grad school, and often visitors and kind of tourists would ask me for recommendations of where to eat, and I would kind of say, "Oh, you have to go to this place and try a little bit of this food, but also don't forget to, you could also try this place and get something from here." So I did an independent study on entrepreneurship, and my focus was creating that kind of tour. I didn't have any experience or background in tourism or anything of that nature, or even food. I worked for a restaurant in high school. That was it. So I learned a lot going through that process. I think it was the most valuable class that I learned in the MBA program at all. And I learned more from making mistakes than anything else. And I went about doing everything the wrong way. Lesson, a really great experience, and that's kind of how I got into the tourism experiential type business, and so that's really kind of how it started.
That's awesome. I love, so I am by trade a preschool teacher, and preschool, of course, is all about making mistakes. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that that's just how we learn stuff, right? So I just want to pull this comment up for your sake from my friend Jonas. Thanks for your service, Lance. Don't lie, there's whiskey in that cup, right?
Or is it vodka?
Right, vodka, whatever, right? It's all good.
Gin,
whatever you need. That's awesome. So, I think I love that story because I think it can appeal to so many people who are struggling at any point in their lives, right? And you have made quite a successful story for yourself, which is super cool. But so the Lizzie Borden house, someone brought it to your attention then and said, "Hey, this is available. It might fit with your plan."
Yes, one of our employees brought it up. So we have very closely guarded secrets or plans for kind of, our 5-year and our 10-year plan. Okay. And so he kind of saw this opportunity come up, and it was perfect for us. We're looking to do more acquisitions like this in the future. And so this was a great opportunity. And I traveled there in February, and I spoke with all the staff. I looked at the business. I reviewed, did my due diligence. It was, I'll say it was a lot longer process, a more difficult process than I thought, but it was a really great experience, and it was a really good learning experience too. And I'm really glad that I did that.
Yeah. But you know what? One thing that in reading about it, that I really appreciated was kind of the consideration of the locals, like people who live in the area, and making sure that they felt like a part of what you were doing and felt invited into whatever presentation. I think that's really important, especially with a place like the Lizzie Borden house that everyone knows about it and probably draws people from all over the place. And for locals, that can probably be a little overwhelming and frustrating at times. Can you speak a little to what that's going to look like for you in terms of making it a place that everyone can enjoy, both tourists and the local Fall City people?
Right. I think that's a lot of people is usually, the strange thing is people don't tend to explore the areas where they live as often or as well as they should. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of how it is. But right now, the Lizzie Borden house is before you could stay overnight. or you could take a tour of the house, and that was it.
Hmm.
But I think there's so much more that the house can offer, especially with a lot of the unused space. I think there's a better use of the outdoor spaces other than a parking lot. Right now we have a lot of people that gather outside of the gift shop area, which can only hold about maybe 12 to 15 people. But there are a lot of people standing in the parking lot. They have nothing to do. They have nowhere to stand or sit. And it's also not, I don't feel safe about that either, because you have cars coming in and coming out. So we want to make people feel comfortable. We also want to give them a reason to stay. So, we're adding a few other things to that. Um, and, uh, and so I think, balancing, um, a few different aspects of the historic elements of the house with also making it a better experience for the guests is an important consideration. So it's always a balancing act, especially with the Lizzie Borden house, with all the following that it has, and you
Hmm.
certainly have some diehard followers, as well. And everyone has their own opinion on what should be done or shouldn't be done.
You know what? That's a really important piece. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to ask you an interesting question, and you can choose to not answer it. But
That's all
first,
right.
I want to say that I totally, it's funny you bring up the fact that people don't really know the history, because as a tour guide for you in Seattle, I've lived here for 30 years. And so I know the history pretty well. I knew a lot of the stories that were on the tour already, and of course add my own little flair to it, I guess. But that's what I find is that the people, the random locals, which aren't as many as the people from out of town, come on, and it's surprising to me kind of how little people know about the city that they live in. So I find it more fun as a tour guide for you and your great company is like that. I can share that with people because most of them are really fascinated by it.
And
So
in the same respect with Fall River at the Lizzie Borden house, the people that come to the Lizzie Borden house, they'll learn about Lizzie Borden and that story and the house, but they won't, they wouldn't leave there learning anything about Fall River or the city in which the Lizzie Borden house resides. And that's why we've added new different types of experiences. So,
mhm.
you can learn about the history of Fall River, and it's got a tragic, long history and interesting history as well, which I was really surprised at. And so we feature those stories on our evening ghost tour, and so there's a more history and more paranormal ghost things involved. So it's not like we're minimizing history and we're pushing up ghosts. This isn't a zero sum game with a fixed pie. We are bringing both up at the same time, and we're adding some new elements as well. But I think you have a population there. You've got Providence, Rhode Island, and you've got Brown University. You've got Dartmouth, which is the next major city and another large university. You have Dartmouth, and that's in New Bedford, and then you've got Boston, which is about an hour away, an hour north, and then just 30 more minutes, about 30 more minutes north of Boston, you have Salem. Now, of course,
Mhm.
that's driving time without traffic, but you have
Yeah.
these different population centers surrounding Fall River. Fall River is not a tourism destination, but we want to provide more events and activities for the people of all ages and of all interests, whether it's history or ghosts. Doesn't have to be either. It could be it's a place for them to come and have a great time. So we want to appeal to those other population groups, bring them in, and while they come in, they will learn more about Lizzie Borden, and we hope that they enjoy themselves. So we want to kind of do more to attract those people.
Yeah, I have tremendous respect for that approach. I am completely a both and girl, and oftentimes on our tours, I talk about the fact that these things really come hand in hand. These stories,
Hmm.
these ghost stories, right, and the history of a place. And so I really appreciate that you're taking the time to kind of bring that both to the forefront. And it kind of actually segues into this question because, of course, I think I've probably mentioned in our communication a little bit that I dabble in paranormal investigation and things like that, and I am associated with quite a few people. I follow a lot of people, and And, you know, one of my thoughts about this is a lot of people get really caught up in this notion of when you go into a place like the Lizzie Borden house and you start making it a big, you know, tourist attraction, blah, 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 it feels like exploitation. Now, I can tell from talking to you that that's not really the case. So I'm really happy to be able to kind of bring that about. And I can probably answer this question myself, but how would you answer that? If you had these people from, you know, the paranormal realm who are like, oh, you're going into this house, there's a lady there and she's haunting and you're making a big deal about her. Have you thought about that at all?
I thought about which perspective?
About exploitation, like about people feeling like you're exploiting Lizzie Borden and the ghost of her that exists in that house, because I
Yeah,
guarantee you it's a thing, right? Like,
yeah, it is. I mean, it's a thing on both sides. You have history, kind of your history niche that thinks it is, and then you have another niche that is. And I think we were getting criticism before we even had ownership of the house, and
right,
you know, people are certainly entitled to their own opinions and beliefs and have strong opinions either way. But I try not to, either myself or a company, get into a position where we tell people really what to think about a scenario. So, I think if we have specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those. But there've been all kind of rumors flying around, and I've been called everything from I've been told Satan, son of Godzilla, a number of other different things. I mean, but I've been through a lot worse. I've heard a lot worse. It's you just brush it all off, a lot of that negativity. There's a podcast a couple of weeks ago that attacked my military service, my character, a lot of other things. But I think it's important to remember that, small minds talk about people, mediocre minds talk about events, and great minds talk about ideas. And we're here to talk about ideas and the ideas that we have for the Lizzie Borden house. And I don't think that we're exploiting anything. Lizzie Borden house has already been a tourism destination. A lot of people already flock there. We're not hurting anybody. We're not doing any harm. I guess I would have to address a lot of the comments as they come, and there's of course a laundry list. But yeah, I'd be happy to go through that laundry list and answer them here on this podcast.
You don't have to answer for me. For me, like that, no, it's very clear to me that that's not your purpose. And I guess for me, it's just kind of asking that question for the sake of people that will ask me the same question, right? Like, you're having this guy on your show, right?
Yeah, and I would say, well, how? Well, how are we exploiting? What are we exploiting, and how? And what damage are we causing? We had this Ghostbuster crew showed up at the house a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. You can see this on the Facebook page for the Lizzie Borden house. One of our managers was telling me about some comments about how angry people were that these Ghostbusters guy came in a Ghostbuster vehicle and clothing with gear and everything in the house, and the customers loved it. I was there for that, and I saw that, and they absolutely had a great time. They were raising money for charity for a children's hospital, and the customers got a chance to take photos with them, and the kids were out there and they had a great time. But you would have people that think that that's outrageous. So we can't please everybody, and we're not trying to please everybody. We have a vision and a goal and a mission, and we are sticking to that, and we're sticking to that through a lot of criticism. And the transition of the house is not easy. It's never easy. It's not supposed to be easy. When this house transitioned ownership last time, 100% lost 100% of the employees, and they had to restart, and they did a lot of really great things in the last 15 years. And I think now it's our turn. I think if we turned it into a haunted house where you walk through and people jump out at you and they're animatronic props and things, then I could understand, I think, some people feeling a little bit upset with that. That certainly isn't the case. We've actually acquired more pieces of history, and we're continuing to do that. So we purchased some newspapers, some original newspapers. We framed them. We're looking at other things that we can do. We bought an antique camera. the late 1800s to kind of reproduce the camera that took the crime scene photographs inside the house, and we placed that in the John Morse room. So we're doing some things to continue to honor history and bring about that. But I don't embrace the kind of thinking that's very one-dimensional and sees the world as a zero-sum game where you can either have history or you can either have hauntings. That seems just really ridiculous to me, and that's not how I live life. And especially anybody who's an entrepreneur, you can't see the world that way. And that's just not how I think. And it's kind of strange for me to address a lot of those kind of accusations because a lot of them are kind of based on rumors and hearsay and assumptions and instead of actual fact finding. And I think, the unfortunate thing is that I think our team has lost a lot of respect for people that embrace that kind of thinking. And, we're really trying to be positive, and we're focusing on the great things and the positive things and moving on. And I think it's important not to get distracted by a lot of negativity and let that distract you and pull you down, because we are incredibly busy right now at the house, doing great things over there and other places. And so we like to remain positive throughout a lot of the negative distractions. And that's something that we're pretty committed to.
Lance, thank you for that. I really appreciate your transparency with that and your honesty. And I couldn't agree with you more, actually. And I love the idea of bringing the history more forward, because really, I think a lot of more people, especially in the paranormal world, focus more on the haunting part. So I just want to kind of bring up a couple comments for you to see from people. If I don't know if you can see them or not, but like this idea of offense is more often taken than given anymore, right? So people just always feeling inclined to share with you what they don't like about what you're doing, but really, who the heck cares? Because you know what you're doing, and it's a purpose, right?
Yeah, and we would really like to, I think, of course, we would love to be viewed favorably, but there's only so much control, and I think it's important to realize the things that you can control in life from the things that you probably don't want to or shouldn't or can't. And I think it's important to understand that anytime you do anything in life, most things, you're stepping into a ring. You're going to get hit, one way or another, and you need to understand that, and that's part of the risk that you take. In your move from where you're at, to Idaho, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So, that's a risk. We're always taking risks, and especially anytime we do something in business, especially something with the Lizzie Borden house, that's a risk. We knew that it had a large following, very opinionated following, and and some great following of some people that have devoted decades of their life to doing research, and that's fantastic. And I think those people are really, we really appreciate them. Regardless of what opinions they may or may not have. I think there's a really awesome following of people surrounding the house, and that's certainly not something that we don't take for granted, but it's something we really do value, and we would love to win the approval of everybody. But that's not always something that we can control, and that's okay. So we're going to get hit. We're going to make some mistakes. We'll make some failures, but that's okay. People can watch, say what they want. They're free to think, and they're free to talk. And I value the first, the Second Amendment, and that is that's okay.
It really is, right? And I kind of think though, the measure of true success is when people want to talk about you, whether it's good stuff or bad stuff, right? So, and we talk about risk. This whole podcast for me was a huge risk. I get on here and talk about.
And I meant First Amendment.
What's that?
First Amendment, freedom of speech. That's what I meant.
Right.
So I did mention Second Amendment, but I wasn't trying to talk about firearms, but we are talking about whiskey, so we may as well.
We might as well, right? It's totally cool. Yeah, no, that's great. So no, I appreciate that. And I hope to get out there and visit. So a quick question about that. Of course, there's been a lot of people who do come in continually and do kind of paranormal investigating kind of stuff. Is that going to be something you're going to continue to allow or support, or does that not really fit into the greater picture for you?
Well, people can still come. We've had a lot of people that have still done it in the last. Today is the today or later this week will be the 2 month anniversary of the acquisition of the house, which was I believe May 27th or 28th. So we're almost at our 2 month anniversary, but we've had several groups, paranormal groups, come in and do investigations. We had a group come in, film something on YouTube. So, and we are offering ghost hunts as part of a regular offering from 10 p.m. to midnight, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday nights. We'll probably extend that as it becomes a little bit more successful. But that's something we offer as a regular basis. So, as you know, as a company, we didn't do ghost hunting. We didn't really know anything really about that. We're really, we try to kind of separate ourselves in our tours from that because we believe reality is stranger than fiction, and we want to tell a story kind of based, just really largely focus on the history, and then we talk about the events that really kind of help, that we believe cause the hauntings, and then we talk about the hauntings. So we try to make a logical connection through everything. We don't draw any conclusions. We don't say that we can be a medium and talk to spirits, or we don't use equipment on our tours. So we always try to be very history grounded. Because I think that gives us more credibility in the eyes of the general population. So getting into a lot of the ghost hunting things has been something on our plan for the last year, but it's been new. So we've been learning a lot about that ourselves, and myself included. But with the 3 nights a week ghost hunt, we try to make it welcoming and open to anybody that maybe they don't know what it is. Maybe they're just curious. They don't have any experience. They can come in and we'll talk to them about what is ghost hunting? Why do you do it? What kind of equipment do you use? What are your objectives? And then we have a staff member that will take them around and help them with the equipment. They'll get their own equipment. So we're trying to make it, educational and fun. For people that maybe haven't been exposed to that, and I've heard comments before from professional groups that kind of look down on people that aren't, professional ghost hunters. But I don't know, in my mind, if you tell me that you can professionally speak to dead bodies or do a ghost hunt, I'm trying to think, well, I don't know, but it just seems to me like, we want to be very welcoming and inclusive to all sorts of people, and we don't want them to feel uncomfortable. We want people to feel welcome about learning about this kind of thing. I know there's something out there. Ghost or whatever you want to call it. There's definitely unexplained things that happen out there. I've experienced them growing up. I've experienced them. I've experienced them at the Lizzie Borden house as well. Both in February when I went for my first couple of nights, and then recently when I come back. But we want to make people feel comfortable and welcome to learn about these things. And being inclusive is something that's really important to us. I think most of the population, I think they also believe that there's something out there, but they don't really know what it is. So we don't try to draw any conclusions. We let them kind of explore for themselves. And I think science will be able to explain what these activities and events are someday. I just don't think that we have the degree, of course, of understanding, or maybe other kinds of comprehension, that we just can't understand what it is. Maybe one day we will. I think we've made a lot of progress, especially when you consider about 500 years ago, we thought the earth was flat, and we thought that everything, including the sun, revolved around the earth. A number of other crazy things, right? So I think we're always improving and getting better. As time goes on, and maybe we will, but I think making sure that people kind of understand what we do with ghost hunting is important, other than just throwing them there and having them watch somebody, ask something questions. We want them to have a good time. We want them to learn something as well. So in the end, it's all about the customer experience, and we want to make sure that they're having a good time.
100%. It's funny that you bring that up, because of course when I'm giving your tours, the tours for the company, I as someone who's a paranormal investigator, it's important to me that people understand that there is some real methodology to that. So I don't throw it out there, but I often will have
Yeah.
certain customers, of course, that are
Right.
really into it. And when they know I do that, they ask the questions and I might go there. I particularly love it when
Right.
children are on the tour because we have a
Yeah.
lot of fun, and I'm an educator too. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's about meeting your customer and what they're interested in and kind of rounding out that experience for them, right?
Sure.
I wanted to say there's a couple of people, of course, this is Whiskey and Weird, and you can go where you want, but is there an experience Lance has had in the house that stands out? And then another person had said, would you be willing to share those experiences that you've had in the house in terms of the paranormal? Was that something you'd be
Sure.
willing to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So when I first came in February, a couple different things happened. The first night I heard a man's voice in the house, and then I heard sounded like footsteps up above. Then I heard a chair kind of move. I heard some kind of what I thought was some kind of furniture moving across the floor. So that was the first night, and then the second night was a Tuesday night. I was in the house. There's nobody else in the house, and I stayed in Andrew and Abby's suite, and I stayed in the room off to the side because it was darker in there and I could get better sleep. And there was a plug by the bed, so that was important. I needed to charge my phone and my laptop. So I was working late. It was about this time, 10:36 p.m. Eastern time, and my legs were up. I was in bed typing away, and my plans for the house, and then I felt this presence enter the room, and I could just feel that there was something there, and then I felt it come closer, and then I felt like there was something kind of surrounding me, and the hair on all my everywhere kind of stood up, and I felt that weird tinkling sensation. I like to call it a spider sense,
Right.
and I felt like something was there with me, and I thought, okay, this is. I wasn't afraid. I just thought, oh, this is interesting. What's this feeling? And I'm not a very feeling guy. I'm a very kind of logical kind of person. And I was like, wow, this is, and I was just trying to understand it and kind of relax. And then I felt something kind of like press on my leg, and it moved my comforter, just kind of was like tugging slightly on the comforter. And it was very strange. And I did record a little bit of it. You can see the blanket kind of move a little bit. I haven't shared it or done anything with that just because, I could have been moving my toe, I guess, and it could be making it. I just feel silly
Right.
sharing it. But
Yeah.
but I think a lot of people that come away from the house don't like sharing those stories. They don't like telling other people the stories because, they feel like it kind of makes people look at them like they're crazy, and maybe they never believed that. So I've talked to a couple of guests that told me that very thing, and they had some pretty wild things happen to them there as well. And so that was my second night. I kind of felt that, and I continued to hear what sounded like kind of a man's murmuring a voice, kind of in the other room. So those are a couple of things that I experienced when I was there in February. One of my employees was also in the suite with me, and he saw a woman walk by in a white nightgown, go to the restroom. The restroom was happened to be locked that night. We just didn't get to unlock it to use the bathroom. We were the only ones in the house, so it was okay. We could use the restroom, which is on the other end of Lizzie Borden's bedroom. But he said that he thought it was me, and I said, "I'm sorry, but I don't have a white nightgown that I just walk around in." And he said, "Did you walk by my bed last night and try to open the door for like a couple minutes?" And he said that the doorknob kept wiggling after he saw the nightgown. He said he was just really terrified and just scared. He just sat in bed and listened to the doorknob, and he wasn't sure if he was dreaming or whatnot, and he went back to sleep. So that was one thing that he had experienced in the house. We've had quite a couple staff members and even the Travel Channel that was there recently see doors open and close on their own. And that happened while we were recording a virtual tour in the house for the Junket app. And they were filming, and behind the filmer, the door just closed on its own. We've had people see shadows in the basement. I've experienced some kind of presence in the house, but I think my second time, when I was in the Bridget Sullivan room, the first night back was a Sunday night before buying the house. I came over, spent a few days before to close on the sale. And then I was in Bridget Sullivan's room, and at about 2:15 in the morning, I heard this tune that was playing as if a children's wind-up toy was kind of
Oh,
playing,
wow.
ding, 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 ding. And I had no idea
Mhm.
what it was because I didn't think that there was any kind of toy that made sound in that room. There was in the room all the
Mhm.
way down the hall, but I didn't think there was anything in that room. So I thought maybe I was hearing a toy that was outside the door. I thought maybe somebody's messing with me. I was like, I don't know what that sound is or where it's coming from, but I'm going back to sleep. So it wasn't until about a month later that I was up in the Bridget Sullivan room, and I had to get in one of the chests because we were looking for something, and I picked
Mhm.
up the toy that was on the chest, and I happened to look at the back of the toy, and it had and I thought it was just a little stuffed animal, and it was these two cats, and it actually has a wind up toy on the back. And I wound it up, and I'm thinking, and then it plays, and that was the sound. That was the song
Wow.
that it was playing when I was asleep at 2:15. I mean, I checked in this room at like 8 o'clock at night, and this thing just started playing on its own, ding, 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 and there was these two cats, little cat toy thing, and they move slightly, kind of as they play. I didn't notice this. I didn't notice any movement at 2:15, but I heard the sound, and I was like, "What is?" And earlier, some people knocked on the door and asked for some things, or they just wanted to talk to me. So I thought maybe it was somebody doing something in the hallway, but this toy just started playing on its own. And we've had so many guests and share stories about things that happened to them in the house as well. And one of the things that we're trying to do is document these stories. So we're trying to
Mhm.
encourage people who do experience something to tell one of our staff and to kind of get in front of the camera and share their experience. Put their face on camera, tell people who they are, where they're from, what room they stayed in, what they experienced. So we're trying to catalog these stories. A lot of these stories are just really fantastic.
Mhm.
I believe at least half of them, um, but uh, but there's stories that at least we want to get out there and share, and we want to tell people. We want everyone to know what people experience here, and I think that is the biggest unused, I think, asset of the house, are the stories. And we want to catch more of those stories and share them with other people. And then it's crazy to see the similarities that people experience. So I didn't see this myself, but we had 3 different people staying the night in the house in early June. There was the rocking chair that was in Bridget Sullivan room. They kind of brought it out into the common area on the third floor, and they all sat in the kind of the tables and chairs around. And they were just kind of talking to this little spirit box thing, and the chair moved 4 feet while they were all looking at it. I mean, these are 3 different
Wow.
groups of people. None of them knew each other, and they all shared the same story of this chair just moving across the floor. So there's been some pretty wild, stories, but we want
Mhm.
to capture that. We want to share those stories. And right now, if people even decide they want to even share that story, um, then it goes nowhere. But usually they'll leave. Nobody really writes it down. There's nothing captured in video, and that's it. So we think it'd be great to share those stories. That's
Mhm.
also, we're going to put that on our YouTube channel and our future podcast that we're going to develop. But we're also going to do some 24/7 live streaming
Oh, yeah, I
from the
saw that.
security
Mhm.
cameras that we have in the house. And then we'll have a mobile camera that will move to different haunted hotspots, especially if it's a room that's not being rented. And we'll allow people to do kind of ask questions through the camera to the ghost hunting device. And virtually, you can do a ghost hunt of Lizzie Borden house, no matter where you are in the world. So that's one of the things that we're going to do. People will be able to check out the house. They might be able to tune in to a tour in progress. There are a lot of people out there that can't experience the house, and I think it's important to offer virtual options
Mhm.
and more ways to experience and interact with the house. Some people may not be able to afford to come out to Fall River. Maybe they physically can't. They have a disability, or that they can't make it there. Well, we want to make it more accessible for them to not only access content of the Lizzie Borden house, but also new ways to interact with it. So we want to make it more of a living enterprise and more of a living being, and do more to really market and get out there with people. So we're going to have a lot of really fun and interesting ways for people to interact with that. Not everybody's going to approve. There are going to be some people that say, "Oh, you're glorifying murder." Well, I don't think we're glorifying murder, at all. We're not saying, "Hey, you should murder people. Murdering people is good," And so I've been asked some strange questions by reporters in the past. are you glorifying axe murder? And I said, well, nobody's being axe murdered here. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So I think your history buffs and I think your paranormal investigators are a very small segment of the total population. So I think if you have a whole pie and you're looking at everybody that could or possibly would want to visit Lizzie Borden house, I think your history and paranormal group are a very important segment and a very great segment for the house. But I think you're still looking at maybe 2% of the population. But I think it's that other 98 that we want to appeal to. We want to make it more accessible for them. Before COVID-19, if you wanted to stay a room in the Lizzie Borden house or book a tour, you couldn't do it online.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You couldn't.
Wow.
So we made a lot of process improvements to that. We're making it easier for people to book rooms, book activities, and I think that's something we want to continue to do. So we're going to make it more accessible and try to democratize the Lizzie Borden story as much as you can. And we have a lot of plans and things that we'd love to do there. We're adding a couple of Lizzie Borden games, Lizzie Borden playing cards. We're doing some fun things down the road. And I think probably 2 years from now, we want to develop a Lizzie Borden movie, TV show, kind of not TV show, but kind of some content where we can kind of do a better job, I think, than the last two movies over the last few years that came out. And I think we can do some fun things there. We also, going back to what we were talking about, working with locals, the outdoor event space that we want to build. That historically that out place behind the house, the parking lot now, it wasn't always a parking lot, right? It was a grassy green door outdoor gathering area. So one of our plans is to use that as an event space where we'll have a few tables, we'll have a large projector that will also can project movies, it can project content. We would love to be a venue for charity events, whether it's a firefighter or policeman charity event or any kind of other fundraisers. We would love to use that area as a beautiful event space. Right now, it's a parking lot. The wall surrounding that parking lot is falling apart. Next year, we have to get that totally replaced. We want to turn that into a nice green oasis, a place where people can come and have fun. And it'll be, more of an attraction in that sense. But in terms of doing things to change the inside of the house, we're still trying to continue to maintain an external section of the house. We're still trying to maintain it as, a historic aspect as much we can to what was believed to be the original version of the house.
Yeah, that's Lance. That's amazing. I mean, it feels really thoughtful, really well thought out, and really holistic. And I agree with your perspective that these history or haunting buffs make up a small amount of that. And I think that stories are at the heart of history, right? That's how history was shared for thousands and thousands of years. And we are at you talked about how science in the coming years will probably show more of this, but technology is allowing us to see and experience, firsthand more of these things, and also giving people the courage to step up and say, I experienced something really crazy that I can't explain. And the more we can talk about it, the more material science has to do with that. So, so thank you for doing that. And thank you for taking the time to share with my listeners those cool experiences, because I know in particularly they appreciate it. Now, one of the tour guides here in Seattle, she's moving, Maddie, she asked this question: are you in contact with organizations that may have some original artifacts from the house? Now, I feel like there's a lot of original artifacts already in the Lizzie Borden house. Is that correct?
Not many. There's only kind of a couple of pieces of furniture. My favorite is the furnace inside the house. They're Art Deco. I love Art Deco design. I'm big into design, especially Art Deco is my favorite. It's the 1920s, one of my favorite eras of history. If I could live for a time, I'd love to be around back then. I've heard stories from my great grandmother who grew up in Philadelphia. She danced with Frank Sinatra. She knew, she had all these crazy stories. And So I really cherish that time in the Art Deco design, which kind of period went from about 1880 to about 1930, just amazes me. So I saw the furnaces inside the Lizzie Borden house that were put in to heat the home, and I thought, wow, that's the first thing I noticed were those. I thought,
Hmm.
man, that's some stylish stuff. I'm sure that was some expensive stuff back in the day. And as
Yeah.
cheap as people say Andrew Borden was, I think you know, I think people are too hard on him. I think it was a practical guy, and a lot of people back in those times were practical, unless you were, a Rockefeller or a Vanderbilt,
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I really like that. So there's an organization, there's an organization in the city that we plan to reach out to. They have a lot of artifacts there. I went once when I was there in February. They weren't available, and it was kind of still, heavily into COVID and everything.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, there's we don't have a lot of the artifacts that are, that I think we'd love to have.
Hmm.
We do have several books that were owned by Lizzie Borden, including one book with her initials on them. Those
Wow.
books are not currently in print. But we are looking at We are reproducing two of those books right now. One is When Ghost Meets Ghost, and one is with Edge Tools. So we are reproducing some of the books. They're out of copyright. They're no longer, production.
Nice.
So we're kind of reproducing some of those and making those available. Yeah, in terms of, we're not currently in touch with those organizations, but we know about those organizations. We've just been so busy right now. We haven't been at the spot where we're kind of changing gears to do a lot of the marketing and a lot of the kind of engaging with, other people. We've met with some
Hmm.
politicians and whatnot that were very helpful and supportive, but in terms of doing the networking and the network building, we're not really there yet. We have talked to some other business owners about a larger vision to help Fall River and help promote it as more of kind of a destination. I don't think doing a shared marketing organization or chamber type visitation organization is the best approach. I think it's best done with private organizations managing it themselves. Um, but um, but yeah, we're kind of not there yet. But there are a lot of organizations that we would love to reach out to, and individuals that we would love to reach out to and engage with. We've just been extremely busy. I mean, we've the foundation of the house needs additional support. It's safe,
Mm.
don't get me wrong, but we need to reinforce the foundation. The back wall in the parking lot has to go within the first year. We've got to replace an HVAC system. We have to replace an entire horsehair wall that is bulging and about to collapse. We have to get a new stove in so that we can cook on it, because the current stove is not original, but it's antique. I know, very antique stove. I think it's a good idea of what it looked like at the time of Lizzie Borden, where she burned her dress. But every week we get complaints from customers. The house fills up with gas. It always has a pilot light running, and sometimes a guest will think that they're doing a service by blowing it out, and that'll cause a gas leak. It's a threat to the house itself, as well as the human life that's inside the house. So we're going to disconnect that. We're no longer going to cook on or operate that, and we actually have another one coming in. So there's a bathroom attached to the kitchen as well that has tile falling out on each side. There's mold in there. We're remodeling the bathroom. That's a $15,000 expense on itself just to fix and repair that. Um, we've got a lot of other significant improvements to be made to the house, and those are no small expense at all.
Hmm.
But these we had two. We had a door. One of the doors, two doors inside of the barn was rotting. You could actually stick your hand through the bottom of the door. It was like that for 2 years.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, imagine trying to heat and cool that as well. So we replaced both of the doors. The other door that was the main door that was really needed to be treated. Both those doors have been replaced with more durable, long-lasting doors. We painted the entire barn inside, the internal part of the barn, and we've remodeled and restructured a lot of that. We're making a lot of upgrades to areas throughout the house, including plumbing, electrical, other things, and so we're doing a lot to invest in and help that house. So I think
Hmm.
I think we're in the best position to do that as the owners of the house. because that requires substantial investment, and it requires more investment, especially upfront, than the house is going to be making, So, I've been called a number of different names, as I've mentioned. One name that people love mentioning over and over again is money grubber. I'm not sure what a grubber is,
Me
but
neither.
but these are people that probably don't have a business, haven't really operated one. If they wanted to buy the house, they could have bought one and done whatever they wanted with it. But what people don't see or don't understand is, all the improvements that we're making that we don't even have to make, stickers
Mhm.
that were on the front door of the house that just kind of look bad, repairing those, painting over those, treating a lot of things. So, and that doesn't mean that we're saying anything negative about anybody, it's never been the case at all.
Yeah.
The prior ownership has done a lot of really great things with that house, and they built the barn. They've done a really great job of, and I've never said a negative thing about them. I think a lot of the things have been interpreted that way. But, like, come on, people, we're not, in middle school anymore. But, I think it's important to realize when you have a house that was from the 1840s, it takes a lot of maintenance and upkeep. And there were a lot of maintenance and upkeep on that house that hadn't been done for years, that should have been done a long time ago. And that's not something that, we're going to let happen. It would have been nice to have a house to not have to do all these things. But that's okay. I think we're putting more money into that house and investing more than has been done probably since that barn was built. So I think, that house needed it, and it still needs a lot of love. And we're going to give it a lot of that love. We've already, from the customer experience perspective, I mean, we've replaced 15-plus-year-old mattresses. At least we think they were at least 15 or 20 years.
Oh
Nothing,
God, yeah.
nothing, and nothing wrong with that. But I didn't have a good time sleeping on the bed, and I didn't like the sheets, and some of them kind of had some stains in there. So we bought 3 times as many sheets as we need for all the beds. They're really nice, thread count, 1,800 plus thread count, kind of Egyptian cotton sheets. Very nice. We got new duvets. We got new duvet covers. We got new pillows and pillowcases.
Mhm.
So, we upgraded that. We upgraded the system, the AC heating system, to a smart home system with Nest. We installed smart lighting with motion sensors and buttons where you could control and dim your room lights or change the colors. We've done automatic locks on the door, so people can put in a code and use it whenever, however they want. Give them, they no longer have to check in to the front desk anymore. We've made a lot of process improvements to, the operations. And so, we've done a lot to invest in the house, and we're going to continue to do so. I think the biggest part of that is going to be what we do to the outdoor space. And that outdoor space, and renovating that is what is really going to help really do the big part of the transition for the Lizzie Borden brand and the name and the house. And that's something that I think once it's done, and once we get the images of what that's supposed to look like, we'll share those, put those out there. We're still trying to hire a marketing director as well. One of the other changes we did is we're hiring 2 full-time dedicated salaried staff, and we're also hiring more part-time staff as well, because we're doing ghost hunts and ghost tours in the evening. But investing in the people is also important. Investing in the staff that we have. We have an amazing general manager now, and we're really lucky to have him. And he's got great energy, and we're just trying to bring a whole lot of positivity and excitement and energy in the house. And I think he helps that. But so we're investing in the house, and we're investing in the people. And it's been a fun journey, but we have a long ways to go still.
So, Lance, I just want to say that the love, the respect, the gratitude for this project and opportunity is really apparent to me, and I think for anyone who's listening today, especially just taking care for the space and for the people. I think there's no question really that you're doing that. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. We have like 1 minute. And of course, as a tour guide,
I'm
As a
happy
tour,
to I'm happy to hang out a little longer if you need to. I was about to go to sleep an hour before this, but I got a second wind, so
I
it
love
must be
that.
the
That
whiskey in the cup.
probably that's awesome. So for me, I want to know like about the tours. So I'm a tour guide, right? Um, what um, what do you have your vision for that? Are you going to add more cities? What do we have, like 35 cities right now, or is it more than that? And do you have a vision for doing any more cities?
Yeah, we have a plan to do many more cities.
Okay.
So I think we have 52 on our final list.
Oh wow.
I think part of the challenge of doing I think we'd be there by now, but we've had some staffing challenges.
Hmm.
So I think that goes back to investing in people. You can have the best strategy and vision you want in the world, but if you don't have the right people to make it happen, it's not worth anything. So, we've got a lot of really awesome plans, but we're trying to build a full-time team of leaders and managers to get that done. So I think like everybody else right now, a lot of companies are hiring. We've always been hiring. We never laid off a single person during the COVID-19 pandemic. Kind of my view as somebody who's been laid off twice since college, when we hire somebody full-time, we want that to be a long-term commitment. And we don't hire somebody if we're not planning to keep them around long-term. So we try to make those selections very carefully. So I think the ability to find the right people has been the one thing that's been holding us back.
Hmm.
I'm especially very picky with staff and with people. But I think we're just looking to build that team. So we are hiring for several different roles, not just as tour guides across the country, but also staff. So our focus has also been versus expansion has really been on building capacity and maintaining the presence in the cities where we do have. DC and New York City have been absolutely devastated. They used to be, great, but they're starting to come back. Still not all the way that they were, especially New York City. New York City, I think, New York City has hurt the most of any city in the United States, I would say.
Hmm.
But but I think we are hiring, and it requires great tour guides. Some cities are ready to go. We don't have tour guides for them yet. Um, Others just we haven't planned the expansion and done the research to build the content and the plan for that yet. So it's a combination of both. But we have many more cities planned, not only for ghost tours and ghostly. So we're planning to do more than ghost tours and offer more types of experiences within that scope. But we're also
Hmm.
working on expanding a food tour business line, a
Yes.
brewery and distillery tour. So some of the company I
Hmm.
own, we do brewery and distillery tours, um, and um, and then another type of just walking tours and unique walking tours to give a different perspective to history. So we're releasing a Wonder Woman tour in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, later this year, and it
Cool.
talks about what women did to help fight and the stories of women in the Battle of Gettysburg. And so we're trying to do things like that, kind of give a different perspective of an area. So we have plans outside of the ghost genre as well, but we're certainly continuing to move forward with the ghost genre. We're just trying to expand our food tours and our other segments, like we've done with U.S. Ghost Adventures.
I love that. I think people are always looking for great experiences, so I think there's a lot to be done with that. I love the mention of the Wonder Woman tour. One of the things I love about the Seattle tour is it's rooted a lot in the history of how women are treated, in Seattle specifically, but around the world. And in some ways, the way our tour kind of ends, it feels kind of really sad and depressing, but I'm always speaking to, this is really important information that we understand how this happened for people. And the energy that still exists from it is really great. So I'm excited. I want to go to Gettysburg and go on your tour
Yeah,
now. Um,
perspective is important. I think
mhm,
that's what I want people to take away when they do a ghost tour is perspective. If you can
mhm.
reflect on your life and your own mortality and think, what do you want to leave behind? What legacy do you want to leave behind? How do you want to be remembered? I hope that people leave and that causes people to think how they can be a better person. How can they treat people better? How can they be more effective in their own life to leave something behind and leave this world a better place?
Yeah.
Than they left it. And I think that's the ultimate takeaway of a ghost story and a ghost tour is reflecting on our own mortality, that anything bad can happen to us at any moment. So we need to hold the loved ones close. We need to live life in a great fashion and have fun and be good. And that's it. I think that's the big takeaway of everything for ghost tours.
And if these things really are sticking around, there's a reason, right? Like maybe we should listen a little bit. Couple questions. So my sister, actually, she lives in Chicago. Do we have a tour in Chicago?
Yes. Windy City Ghosts.
There you go, Jacqueline.
WindyCityGhosts.com.
Okay. Windy City Ghosts. And then of course, for my own personal interest, do you ever see like Spokane, Washington, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho on your map for tours?
If you're there, we'll give it a shot. If somebody thinks there's something interesting, we can go ahead and let us know, and we'll certainly give it a try. So I know I can't imagine how many places there are, and I'm sure a lot of different stories are told, but we generally try to look for iconic cities or larger cities, but we're open to doing more, especially if that helps everybody else kind of experience a new area of the country, especially as we gain a digital audience. I think that side is going to be really fun. And that's one of the things we want to do in the future is kind of, once we have some of our current plans finished, we want to look at how can we bring stories maybe digitally without doing walking tours there regularly. What can we do to tell more stories and more locations, or do ghost hunts and ghost events? So.
Yeah. Well, I can say, just because it's a personal interest of mine, there's a lot of great history in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. So it's possible that it could be rich enough for you to put together something.
My dad actually wants to move there when he retires. He's never been, but.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. But yeah, so Lance, thank you so much for coming on with me. I really appreciate it. I know that you're really busy, and I especially appreciate that you kind of reached out to me initially to be like, hey, that really meant a lot to me, to be honest. And I've really enjoyed kind of this opportunity to get to know you a little, because to be honest, like I said, I had no idea. Like, I did Seattle Terrors tours, and that was fun for me, and I absolutely love it. It's totally my shtick, and the whole haunting and history thing, I think it goes hand in hand. It's really important. But yeah, I really celebrate everything that you're doing and what you're doing at the Lizzie Borden house. I wish you just tremendous success with that. And I'm curious to kind of just watch and see how it all plays out. But yeah, thank you for just hanging out with little old me over here on Whiskey and Weird.
Thank you.
That means a lot.
Yeah, happy to support you, and you take care of us as a tour guide, and we want to do the same. And I'm really sad we're going to be losing you in Seattle, but glad to have you. Then never have met you at all.
I know, right?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Hi, Maddie. Thank you, Maddie.
Oh, there's Maddie. Yeah, Maddie. She's the bomb too. She trained me.
I think I watched part of her ghost flicks. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. Somebody just asked me today about doing a ghost flicks, and I had to respond and say, well, I only have 3 more tours left, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But
you can have the best tour in the world, just like I said earlier. You can have the best plan and vision and strategy in the world, but if you don't have the right people, it doesn't matter. Same thing with tours. You can write the best tour, come up with the best idea, find the best facts or stories. But if you don't have the guide delivering that, then it doesn't really matter. Our product really is a personal experience, and we don't make products, we don't sell those. It's all storytelling, and with storytelling, it's all about the storyteller. So if you don't have a good storyteller, you don't have a good story, you don't have a good experience. So that is that's certainly important. But you also mentioned Junket and the other businesses. Well, we've used Junket at the Lizzie Borden house for 3 new experiences that you can find on Junket. You can get to this at the Lizzie-Borden.com website, and that is a murder mystery game where you are a detective and you get to interview and speak with the different characters of the case in the app. Every decision leads you somewhere else, and you try to find out who actually did it at the end. The other one is a tour of Oak Grove Cemetery, where the Borden family is buried. And the other one is a video tour with one of our tour guides that we did one afternoon. So somebody could go on there right now and kind of have a tour of the room and listen to the tour guide without having to go to the house. So
that's awesome. So is that like just junket.com, Lance, or how do people find that?
So the app is wejunket.com, JUNKET.
Okay.
However, if you go to the Lizzie Borden website, lizzie-borden.com, you'll see Murder Mystery Game. You can actually, so you have to purchase them, but once you purchase them, it will email you a set of instructions where you download the app. It'll give you a button. You'll log into the app. It's free. And then a button to press to launch the experience in the app. So it's launched from the email. So people can actually purchase those right now from their from the website.
Cool. That actually sounds kind of fun. I might have to check that out. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Lance. I'll let you go now. But yeah, I wish you the best of luck.
I'm letting you go.
I know.
It's 11:10.
You know what? Honestly, right? No, that's funny. But I hope I get to meet you in person sometime. And I really want to get out to the Lizzie Borden house. It's kind of on my list of things to do. And yeah, I hope that there's some way for me to stay connected with this, with U.S. Ghost Adventures and things, because it's fun for me. I really enjoy it. It's something I already do anyway. So they say you should love your work, right? Love what you do. So so thank you for creating these kind of opportunities for weird people like me. I think it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. I don't think you're weird. I just think you're not boring.
Right. Well, thank you. That's a tremendous compliment. So anyway, you have a wonderful night, and best of luck again with you. And hopefully we'll get to meet each other face to face someday. That would be amazing.
You got it. That'd be great. Come on over to the Lizzie Borden house. We have we'll put you in one of the 2 new basement rooms that we just built.
Ooh, that sounds absolutely awesome.
Room in the basement. That's another change we made. 2 rooms in the basement.
I'll bring all my ghost hunting tools. Awesome. Cool.
What else are you going to do if you can't sleep? So
right. Exactly. Right. Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And let me say awesome one more time, because that's just how I'm feeling right now. It's the whiskey.
Awesome. Have a good night.
It's the whiskey and it's you. Thanks, Lance. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Hey guys, thanks for chiming in, listening tonight. I really appreciate it. I think it was a fantastic opportunity. And I think super cool guy. And I think everyone deserves to have their story told, right? So I'm grateful for those of you who chimed in, those of you who are going to be watching later. Of course, you can watch this replay on Facebook, on YouTube, and you can listen in on your favorite podcast app later. But it's going to probably be a little while. As I mentioned, I'm moving to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho in a couple of weeks. And I'm doing a little rebranding of Whiskey and Weird and of Paranormal and all of this. And I'm really excited about that. But I'm so grateful for you. And I wish you all the best. And I will see you soon. Until then, stay weird. Love you.